The fraudulent Minnesota Vikings are on to the divisional playoff round, and I could not be more chagrined because last week I said if I was going to go 1-3, the one game that I knew was going to come through for me was going to be the New Orleans Saints knocking off the Minnesota Vikings. But the Vikings did the seemingly unthinkable. They defeated the New Orleans Saints. Kirk Cousins gets a playoff victory. I don't know what to tell you. They're on to the second round, and they'll be the first game that we'll be discussing. Last week in the wild card round, we went 2-2. 2-0 on Saturday, and was like, well, I'm going to win at least 3 because of the Minnesota Vikings will lose to the Saints, but I was incorrect. I also thought the Philadelphia Eagles would beat the Seahawks. Could they have? Had Carson Wentz not been injured? Well, that'll be just something that Eagles fans can discuss for quite some time, but let's look ahead right now to the divisional round. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings, who looked pretty good. Everybody is starting to get healthy at the right time for the Vikings. Adam Thielen is back. Dalvin Cook is back. Dalvin Cook going up against the Saints, who had not allowed a 100-yard rusher in 42 consecutive games, went out there and absolutely crushed. It was his first 100-yard game in about 2 months. So it was good to see him back. Not for me, but I mean, it was good for Vikings fans to see him out there crushing it. This week, he's going to be going up against a San Francisco 49ers team that is 17th against the run this season. The 49ers are the top pass defense, but have been a little susceptible to people being able to move the ball on the ground. And we saw that Vikings offensive line open up some holes. Dalvin Cook looked good. And of course, that opened it up for Kirk Cousins, who's been playing pretty well this year, especially when he's able to play action pass. Adam Thielen returned, of course, during the first series. He fumbled. Interesting to note, teams that have fumbled on their opening drive in the playoffs, the last 3 to do it have gone on to reach the Super Bowl. So if you believe in stuff like that, then you've got to feel pretty good about the Vikings' chances this week or moving forward in the playoffs. So everything seemed to click for them. They looked good. Everybody wants to come out and say that Kirk Cousins finally exercised his demons. He put that all behind him. I'm not so sure. And this is one of the things that we love to do in sports, is that we downgrade these players when they go out there and they consistently underperform in big-time situations. And Kirk Cousins has done it a lot. He does not play well in prime time. He does not play well in playoff games. And everybody likes to kind of dismiss it like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But the fans and people like us, we sit there and we're like, no, we can see the empirical evidence that this guy cannot play on the big stage. Why are we giving him a free pass because we like him? I mean, that is one of the things about Kirk Cousins. That's why it feels bad to drag him as often as we do, because he seems like the nicest guy in the world. He loves Portillo's. And seriously, if I was stuck at the airport in Minneapolis, I would have more faith in Kirk Cousins coming to pick me up than my own blood cousins. But I have an awful family. But anyways, the thing is that we like to, whenever these guys have their one moment where they finally come through, and they're great athletes, they should eventually come through by accident. At least one time, I think of Alex Rodriguez with his BS home run against Brian Fuentes in the 2009 ALCS. Sticking to baseball, I think of Clayton Kershaw. A couple of years ago, he closed out the Washington Nationals, and all the writers could not be more excited for him. Oh, go away, stupid playoff narrative. May you never rear your ugly head again. One guy wrote, it might have been Jonah Carey, it might have been somebody less creepy. The thing is, they wrote that, and they said that Kershaw had exercised his demons, but if you've watched the postseason for the last number of years, you realize that, nope, Clayton Kershaw is the same guy in the postseason who he's always been, despite the one time he escaped against the Washington Nationals. Pretty much what we've expected out of Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs has reared its ugly head again. Sorry, it's not a narrative if it keeps happening over and over. This is something that happened with Peyton Manning as well. Everybody loved to believe that it was some sort of narrative. Oh, he's so good. Like, he's so great. Like, it's a playoff narrative. No, he was terrible in the playoffs. The numbers are the numbers. The tape is the tape. He's not playing well against the elite teams. It's just the way that it is. I wish it wasn't that way, but it absolutely is. And the same thing with Kirk Cousins. Now they kind of defied the odds last week, going up against the New Orleans Saints, winning a game, running against a team that does not allow a lot on the ground, throwing the ball with some efficiency, looked pretty good, hit the deep ball to Adam Thielen. He made a play when he needed to make one. I don't want to take that away from Kirk Cousins, but I'm also not at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that now all of a sudden he's Joe Montana just because he has one playoff win. What about all the other times? What about all the other times he did not come through in a big situation? Now he's going up against the 49ers, who, like the Vikings last week, are starting to get healthy as well. Quan Alexander expected to play. Dee Ford expected to play. And when both those players are in the lineups, which they were through weeks 1 through 9, the 49ers allowed an average of less than 13 points per game. With one or both those guys out of the lineup, the 49ers were allowing 26 points per game. So you can look at some of the recent weeks and say, hey, listen, this 49ers team is vulnerable. Yes. When Dee Ford's not playing and Quan Alexander aren't playing, very vulnerable. When George Kittle wasn't there, that's why they lost to the Seattle Seahawks. And so while Kirk Cousins has a 122.5 passer rating on the deep ball on the season, and we see why he's so good, I'm not sure he's going to get that much time to throw against the 49ers. And is there a quarterback who folds it in harder when the rush is coming than Kirk Cousins? Like, he goes full turtle. Like, nope, I'm done. I am done. But both guys have been playing pretty well. You know what? I know that a lot of people think that Cousins might have an advantage, but he's got to play well. When his passer rating's less than 95, the Vikings are 0-5. They average about 70 points per game, less than 200 passing yards. Can't get it done on third down either. I think the 49ers are going to get to him. I think they're going to pressure him because Kirk Cousins during his career against teams that have finished the regular season ranked in the top 3 in pass defense, he is 1-4. Completed about 63% of his passes. His passer rating's 88. Not miserable. But I do believe that 49ers are going to get it done. Anytime Jimmy Garoppolo has been challenged, he has risen to the occasion. Every time that everybody has said that Jimmy Garoppolo is the weakest link for the 49ers team, he has risen to the challenge, giving the 49ers in this one, the primetime game on Saturday night, Titans and Ravens. Lamar Jackson led the NFL in passing touchdowns with 36, led all quarterbacks in rushing yards with 1,200. The last player to do that was Hall of Famer Steve Young, who won the NFL MVP, was the Super Bowl MVP, and that was all for the 49ers in 1994. The Titans' defense has been playing pretty well, especially in the interior. They've been shutting some people down. Let me see if I can check my notes. When Jarrell Casey and Jeffrey Simmons are on the field in 2019, they allow an average of 3 rushing yards per attempt. They've got a stuff rate of 30%. The success rate is all the way down to 38.4. Nobody is getting chunk gains against those guys when both players are on the field. So the Titans defense has been playing pretty well. And listen, I know a lot of Titan fans still upset. And by the way, we probably can go over this a little bit more in great detail. For anybody who's wondering why we don't do this on Facebook anymore, why we don't stream on Facebook Live, and why you're listening to us, you're downloading the podcast. By the way, big thanks to Mitch Hine for putting that together. You can find us Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Pod, iHeartRadio app. We used to do this. We used to stream it live on Facebook at facebook.com/AdamRank. But unfortunately, some fans from Tennessee been a little too vulgar. So we've kind of had to stop that. Had to shut down some of our stuff. So we've moved to YouTube. You can check it out, youtube.com/AdamRankNFL. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, the reason we're coming to you here is because we've had a little bit of an issue with some vulgar fans who, let's be honest, can be a little, you don't have to be so rude about it. But the Titans have been playing pretty well. I don't want to take anything away from the team. Derrick Henry's been very good. Ryan Tannehill, ever since he's been taken over, I thought that this team was not going to make the playoffs this year. I thought with Marcus Mariota, there was no way they were going to get it done. Arthur Smith coming in, brand new offensive coordinator, elevated, started off as a quality control coach, working with the tight ends. But they've been playing pretty well. They won 9 games. Do they benefit from Nick Foles being hurt for most of the year? Andrew Luck retiring? Ben Roethlisberger not being there? They're in the playoffs. They beat the New England Patriots, as we called last week. And really, when I'm looking at these games and I'm thinking about which one could be primed for an upset, the Titans have been playing well enough over the last number of weeks to where I think that that could be a possibility. Now, I'm going to pick Lamar Jackson, because I think last year Lamar Jackson was a little overwhelmed in his first playoff appearance. Lamar Jackson 5-1, 6-1 during the regular season. The only regular season loss that he had was to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes with them late game heroics. But then they beat the Chargers on the road in LA. Went back home, lost to them. I don't think that the moment's going to get too big for them here. John Harbaugh, Super Bowl winning coach, going to have his team primed and ready to go. Now, if something happens with Mark Ingram, if Mark Ingram's unable to play, there could be some concern there. But I think ultimately, John Harbaugh knows what he's doing. If I said Jim earlier, I apologize. I apologize if that's the case. But give me the Ravens, like the running game. The only thing that we haven't seen, and this could be a little bit of trouble, and if it doesn't rear its head this week against the Tennessee Titans, I think it is something that could cause problems for them in a potential AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. But, we're getting way too far out in front of our skis. So I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens, even though when you got Casey and them, they have been playing pretty well together. Let's move on to the other AFC game. Texans at the Chiefs. We call this the Mitch Trubisky Bowl. The two quarterbacks that could have been drafted ahead of Mitch Trubisky in the draft a couple of years ago. I don't need to remind myself of this. Deshaun Watson, who rallied his team last week. And I was so ready to put out a tweet about the Texans. Like, why do they always do this in the playoffs? Why do you always play this early game, then go out with a whimper? Well, that wasn't completely accurate. They did win a couple of years ago, too. But rallied against the Buffalo Bills, who kind of imploded on themselves, but credit to the Texans for getting it done. Did you know that Deshaun Watson is 3 days older than Patrick Mahomes? And history says that the age gap could be the deciding factor on Sunday. The 3-day age difference will be the closest among any opposing starting quarterbacks in a playoff game in the Super Bowl era. And in the 5 previous instances where guys were kind of similar in age like this, the older guy has won. Again, none of this stuff matters, but it is just an interesting note. Now, can the Texans buck history and defeat Patrick Mahomes for the second time this season? That's right. Texans already beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And you look at Andy Reid, and some of the struggles that he's had in the postseason. Now, let's be realistic. Mahomes had 3 touchdown passes on 34 attempts when those teams met in Week 6, even though the Texans won 31-24. That's Mahomes' only regular season loss in his career in a game with at least 3 touchdown passes. That is it. But the one thing that stands out to me about the Kansas City Chiefs is how well the defense has played over the last couple of weeks. Since they've been healthy and ready to go, that defense in Kansas City, which has been it's been kind of an issue for them. The defense has kind of held them back over the last couple of years. But that defense has been playing pretty well, allowing an average of about 11 points per game over the last couple of weeks. And to me, that is going to be the biggest difference. And Kansas City is now also starting to get healthy. Everybody is starting to get healthy and ready to go. And we saw it last year. Dee Ford doesn't jump off sides. We could have had a Rams-Chiefs Super Bowl. Would McVay have scored? Would the Rams have scored more than 3 points? Hopefully. Hopefully it would have been another barn burner. But I think this is all setting up very nicely for the Kansas City Chiefs. If you've noticed, they've kind of slid underneath the radar. Everybody's looking forward to a 49ers-Ravens Super Bowl. They want to put the Ravens in the Super Bowl already, but everybody is kind of overlooking how well Kansas City has been playing. And last year, Patrick Mahomes was one of the most amazing quarterbacks that we have ever seen in the NFL. But this year, with all the adversity, fighting through the injuries, the inconsistency, having Tyreek Hill for stretches at a time, trying to get new players into the mix, what Patrick Mahomes has done this season might be even more impressive. He probably didn't win you a fantasy league. You might think he might not be good anymore. The last year was kind of a fluke, but I think what he has been able to do, given the circumstances, has been very impressive. So I look for the Kansas City Chiefs to win a big game, like a blowout, like putting this one away. They lost to the Texans earlier this season. They are not going to make the mistakes that Josh Allen and the Bills made last week. I love the Chiefs in this one. I love the Saints last week too, so who knows? Who knows what I'm saying? But I really like the way this is setting up for the Chiefs. The Chiefs defense, here's what it is. I found it right here. The Chiefs defense has allowed 11.5 points per game since week 12. Since week 11, excuse me. That's the fewest in the NFL. They're first in points allowed per game. They're ninth in total yards allowed per game. They've allowed the fewest offensive touchdowns since week 11. Their red zone percentage over that time, second. Passer rating, first. The Chiefs have held starting quarterbacks under a 100 passer rating in 6 consecutive games. Only the Steelers had a longer streak to finish the season. Some of the quarterbacks over that span had a combined passer rating of 89.9. They have been shutting teams down defensively. It's not being regarded well enough. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs. And finally, the Green Bay Packers against the Seattle Seahawks. And if you want me to be objective and you expect me to give you a fair and honest review of what is going to happen in this game, you've come to the right place. Listen, I make no mistakes. I make no bones about it. Will I be rooting for the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday? I will. Do I think they're going to win? Well, only 4 quarterbacks in the Super Bowl era have a winning record and a 90-plus passer rating in the playoffs. 2 of them are Hall of Famers Joe Montana and Kurt Warner. The other 2 will meet head-to-head this week. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers with a 102.4 passer rating and Russell Wilson with a 101.2 rank first and second all-time in passer rating of all time. This game will mark the third time since 1950 that the two highest rated passers in league history at the time that they were playing have played. Now, Rodgers defeated Tony Romo. People might not remember that. When they met in 2014. And when you look at it too, I know Seattle's coming in playing a little bit of a weather game. But the forecast, and again, this is Wednesday that I'm recording this. The forecast for Green Bay calls for a high of 25 degrees on Sunday. Rodgers is 24-7 with 66 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, a 105.6 passer rating in his career in freezing temperatures. That's 32 degrees. And of course, this is Fahrenheit. Everybody knows that Celsius is far superior. Russell Wilson is 1-2 in freezing weather, 4 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. His passer rating's 61.4. And additional notes here, and I hope they're here. The Packers have the highest pressure rate in the NFL this season. Ahead of the Jags, the Eagles, the Rams, the Patriots. The Packers are the only team to have 3 pass rushers who rank in the top 25 in pressure rate. Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, all these guys have been getting to the quarterback. Russell Wilson struggled to move the ball under pressure during the regular season, but he did okay against the Philadelphia Eagles because Russell Wilson is one of those primetime players. He's ready to go. The thing that's the most curious for me coming into this game, how motivated is Aaron Rodgers really going to be to want to get back to the Bay Area where he grew up, to play against the team he grew up rooting for? Because the last time we saw him in Santa Clara, it did not work out well for him. And I don't know why he thinks it'll be any better this time around either. As the 49ers struggle down the stretch, the one team they absolutely dominated was the Green Bay Packers. But again, that could neither be here nor there. That being said, as much as I want the Seattle Seahawks to go to the NFC title game to face the San Francisco 49ers, as much as we demand an encore for those 2 thrilling contests they have played so far this season, I believe that we are going to be deprived of that. Once again, is it as simple as saying that Aaron Rodgers thrives in the cold? Yeah, that's part of it. But really, you know what? One of the things that's been impressive about the Packers this season is how well they've run the football. How big of a factor guys like Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams have been this season. The Packers do a pretty nice job on the ground. The Seahawks, as much as we love seeing Marshawn Lynch out there, it was amazing to see him go out there and get a touchdown against the Eagles as well. They still have guys that were not on the roster to start the season running the football. And I think it's almost a little bit too much to ask for the Seahawks to go to Philadelphia one week. I mean, they're coming off a hard game against the San Francisco 49ers where they came within a foot of hosting a playoff game last week. They go on the road to Philadelphia. They're going to be going on the road to Green Bay. And I don't expect this to be a blowout or anything like that. I expect this to be tightly contested. But I do hate to say this, but the Green Bay Packers are going to emerge victorious in this game. Give me the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers, so of course we'll be looking at a title game picture of, and it's pretty chalky, the 1 and 2 seeds. Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers, Packers. It's probably not going to end up that way. I will probably emerge once again. You guys will be in the comments being like, oh, this aged poorly. How'd these picks do? I went 2 and 2 last week. Not great. Mike Greenberg went 0 and 4. Go check out Freezing Cold Takes. And by the way, you don't have to tag Freezing Cold Takes. They've got me. I've got season tickets there. So don't feel like you got to let him know. He knows. He knows where to find me. He knows when it's a slow news day. He's like, well, Rank will have probably said something stupid at some point, and that's fair. And that's fair. So those are my picks for the divisional round. Do want to say a couple of quick words about some of the hires that were recently made. And of course, 3 teams added coaches at the time of this recording. Matt Rule is going to be the coach of the Carolina Panthers. I absolutely love this move. At Temple, he was the first coach to get them back-to-back 10-win seasons, or their only 2 10-win seasons ever, it seems like. Love this move. Went to Baylor. Now, obviously, under Art Briles, they had a lot of success on the field, but of course, that situation, not great. Not great what was happening down in Baylor. And of course, he goes down there, much like Bill O'Brien did when he took over at Penn State, turned that Baylor program around. So I expect him to go in and change things up in Carolina. I do expect them to probably go out there and get rid of Cam Newton. Hey, you can send him to the Bears, but they're probably going to take it all the way down to the studs. That means Christian McCaffrey, build around him and DJ Moore and try to build it up that way. I see them competing, being very competitive in year 2, maybe not next season. Love what they got going on. Thought that was a great pick. Mike McCarthy for the Dallas Cowboys is an interesting pick to me. And if you didn't see me say this on Twitter, I will repeat this right now. But hiring Mike McCarthy is a lot like going to Taco Bell late at night. You're desperate. There are not a lot of great options out there. It's solid, yet unspectacular. And I know a lot of you think that Taco Bell is the most amazing thing you've ever seen. Move to effing California. You would never feel that way. It's fine. It's reliable. It's dependable. Solid. Solid meal. Dorito, Loco, Taco, love it. Not the greatest thing that you've ever seen. But it's dependable. This is going to be a guy who's going to get the Cowboys to 9, 10, 11, 12 wins every year. Maybe an off year here or there. They're going to be competitive every season. They will be in the mix for the NFC East every season. They might even win a playoff game or 2. But to expect Mike McCarthy to come in here and win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, I just don't see it happening. Anytime we've seen a coach who has won a Super Bowl someplace else get hired by another team, they never win it. Bill Parcells never won it. Jimmy Johnson didn't win it when he went to the Dolphins. George Seifert, if you want to go way back in history. Yes, I'm a boomer. Go Google George Seifert. He won 2 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. Did nothing. Lasted 3 years in Carolina. So I'm not so sure that Mike McCarthy is going to go and win a championship with the Dallas Cowboys. He had some talented teams with the Green Bay Packers. He has never coached anything less than a Hall of Fame quarterback. So if you think he's going to go out there and win the Super Bowl, fair enough. Solid hire, unspectacular. Joe Judge, that's an interesting hire. Now the Giants requested permission to talk to Jason Garrett. And it was like, oh my God, no. F no. Like, no. Just offensive coordinator. We're bringing in Joe Judge. You're like, oh, okay. Because when you hear, when your mind goes to Jason Garrett could be our coach, to like, no. Offensive coordinator, we're going to go Joe Judge. You're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, Judge, you know, you can reuse all those puns. All the all-rise puns that you've been using for Aaron Judge over the last couple of years. So they probably already got the typeset and everything. You know what? These are the like if Mike McCarthy is Taco Bell, Joe Judge is some hipster joint that has great reviews on Yelp. You're like, yeah, let's give this place a try. We'll go out. We'll get some bacon-wrapped dates. We'll have a good time. We'll get some vino, like whatever. But it's an interesting situation. At least it's something out of the norm. He's a special teams coach for the New England Patriots, and one of the best parts of the Patriots this season, I thought, were special teams. So that's a pretty interesting choice right there. Kind of dig it. Kind of into it. I like it. Go outside the box, Giants. Go. Let's get crazy. So I think that's a pretty good move for them. And of course, and all the Giants fans will tell you, they were all pissed at first. They're like, oh, what are we doing? They're like, oh, John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. Yeah, I dig it. Doug Peterson was somebody, I mean, he wasn't a special teams coach, but again, somebody was like, all right, fair. When Frank Reich was hired, you know, they were going after Josh McDaniels, so a lot of people are like, whatever. Those guys have worked out pretty well. Some of the better coaches moving on. So I think it's okay. I think it's going to be a pretty good hire for you. I think that it'll be interesting. I think it works out better than Ron Rivera in Washington. I think that one Man, watch. Everybody loves the Ron Rivera hire in Washington. Watch that be the train wreck. Watch Joe Judge outlast him. But in any event, big thanks to Mitch Hine for putting this all together. He does a lot of great work, so I cannot tell you how much we appreciate it and thank him for everything he does to get this into your earbuds. So we appreciate you. Good luck to everybody this week. We'll look forward to breaking down the games next week, looking ahead to the AFC and NFC championship game. Until then, catch you on the flip, suckers!